I don't know about anybody else, but I'm done freeing Britneys. What's up, everybody? Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. Before we get started, I'm just going to ask that you comment, like, and subscribe, even if you're just thanking me for pissing you off and getting your heart going tonight. Okay, today we're going to be discussing Brittney Griner, the 6'9" whiner. I know I shouldn't talk about her that way, and I will start by saying that I'm really not gloating about this at all because I think getting locked up is a very serious thing, and I personally know how much I value my freedom. So I am not going to really make too much light of the situation, but I am going to mention the fact that I think Brittney Griner is a Dum Dum. I think the people that she has speaking for her are also misguided. And I really wish she hadn't left herself in this situation. As a comedian, I have traveled quite a bit. I've never been to Russia. I would not go to Russia. I'll explain why in a minute. I don't think Brittney Griner should have been in Russia. I think that no matter how much money she has, she should have known that that was going to be a bad move. And I really just can't stress how much, I do sympathize or empathize, whichever one would be best in this situation, with her. But at the same time, it's kind of like you did something dumb, Brittney, and that's what it is. And I know you're trying to say that it was an accident. I can kind of relate to that because not too long ago, I was flying out to, I don't remember where, and I haven't been smoking for a couple of months now, and I had a pipe in my bag. And I noticed that as I got to the airport, I was going through my bag for something after leaving the Uber, and I remember seeing the pipe and being like, oh shit. And I was just flying domestically, and it was just a pipe. There was nothing in it, residue, but there was nothing, no. And I immediately threw that pipe away in the airport trash can. I was just like, let me get rid of this. I don't need this. But with Brittney, I don't know if I believe the story that she's giving when she says that she accidentally put it in her bag or it was a mistake while she was packing. I don't know if I believe that. I think that she thought that they weren't going to search her more than once. I think she also thought that her celebrity would carry her through if something did happen. And it's easy to do that when you've been, especially when you've been going to a place a couple of times, because she's been going there for, I think, 10 years now, they said. And so she knows what the laws are, and you've got to be extra careful when you're packing, especially internationally, because with me, it's China that I used to go to once a year. And I know that China is super strict about all of that stuff. I also know that I'm gay and I'm brown. And so when it comes to Brittney Griner, she's black, she's a woman, she's a lesbian. So she's already going in with 3 strikes right there. So she really should have known to mind her P's and Q's and make sure that she didn't have anything that was considered contraband in that country. Russia doesn't like gay people anyway. That's very well known. They tried to have gay pride there, and that was not going on at all. Violence against gay people in Russia is not a thing where they care about it. So Brittney Griner should have known. She's already got 3 strikes against her going in. Going into it, she already has 3 strikes against her. So you definitely do not travel with anything. And if your pain is that bad that you can't be without it, which is something I wouldn't dispute. I have friends that use medical marijuana legitimately for pain. And I would not at all discount that and say that that's not a thing. But I would say that if your pain is bad enough that you can't go without your vape for as long as you're going to have to be out there, then you shouldn't go out there. And I know her wife said because she only makes just over 200, I think it was $239,000 is what they cap at in the WNBA, which we all know for athletes isn't really anything. But the truth is WNBA isn't that popular, and Brittney Griner isn't that big of a celebrity. Not to be mean, but I'm actually from Arizona, and Brittney Griner now has been on everybody's lips. But before this, she was definitely not on everybody's lips, even in Arizona. But being a person from Arizona, $200,000 a year, you can live a good life in Arizona on that money. Is it baller status money? No. But if you go to another country like Russia, where you have no business just to make extra money, I don't necessarily feel sorry for you, because it's not like you were poor here. It's not like you had no options here. I just think that there's better ways to make money. And when they say not all money is good money, this is definitely one of those cases for me. So when her coach comes on TV and says,
if it was LeBron, he'd be home, right?
Yeah, well, if grandma had balls, she would be grandpa. It's just things are what they are. It would be the same as me if I got busted with that pipe and got in some trouble over it because I was going to a state that wasn't necessarily cool with medical marijuana. If people that were supporting me were to come out and be like, well, if he was Dave Chappelle, well, I'm not Dave Chappelle. So I can't expect that same celebrity treatment, especially in a country that we don't even have good relations with. Like Russia and the United States, in case you guys haven't noticed, aren't exactly on the best terms. So when you're trying to deal with Russia and you're throwing in all sorts of things that don't matter to the situation, like, she's lesbian and she's black, great. You're right. By SJW rules, that really should hold up well. But when you're dealing with Russia, Russia doesn't care about our SJW rules at all. Like, you just saw what happened with the Ukraine and Russia, which different people have different opinions on Ukraine being racist and whatever else. And that's not something I would disagree with. But at the same time, you notice that you're dealing with an entire country, Ukraine, and then there's Russia. And the United States put sanctions on them and everything else. And they're just like, yeah, we're still just going to do what we're going to do. So when it comes to a situation like Brittney Griner, it does complicate matters that there has been that strife with Russia, Ukraine, and the entire world at this point. So when you take that all into account and then you think about the fact that she just, bottom line, whether it was an accident or not, so let's completely take away my argument that maybe it wasn't necessarily an accident. Let's say it was an accident. Either way, you brought weed into the country. And that's all that they care about. That's all that they see. So when that's what you're dealing with, and then now they're talking about a trade, Secretary of State Blinken stepped in and has been trying to work it out himself. And with that, they're talking about a trade for Paul Whelan. So when people make it seem like it's just about black, Paul Whelan is a white man that's been there for, I think since 2018 is when Paul Whelan's been out there for espionage. And I think his sentence was 13 years. Now they're talking about throwing in another guy, Mark Fogel, for the trade because they're trying to make it worth it. But Mark Fogel has been there since 2021 and he's on a 14-year sentence. And his is for medical marijuana as well. It's like, you guys have to understand, just because here in the United States it's gotten to where weed isn't a big deal, that doesn't mean that in Russia it's not a big deal. And when they say that Brittney Griner is being wrongfully detained, that doesn't make sense either. That's like the dumbest way to go at it, because by United States now, at this point in history, because let's not forget, there's a bunch of people locked up on weed charges now that were before weed became legal. So when you say wrongfully detained, is she really being wrongfully detained, or is she being wrongfully detained by our standards? So supposedly Russia would consider a deal if they're able to get a Russian arms dealer out of prison here in the United States. And then the other catch is a Russian murderer that is not even being detained here in the United States. He is being detained in Germany. So they want to possibly trade those two for Brittney Griner, who, when it comes down to it, is just a professional athlete. There's nothing special about her. I'm not trying to take away her athletic ability, because I know she is a top-notch athlete. I'm not trying to say that she's not. But at the same time, she's just an athlete that has a little bit of celebrity. There's also a guy that was convicted of espionage over there, and then another weed charge. So are those three people really worth the trade of not only a Russian arms dealer, but also a Russian murderer who's being held in Germany, which probably means that we would have to do some sort of favor to Germany in order to negotiate getting that murderer out of a German prison. And Brittney Griner's wife made a statement where she said that, and I'm not, this is an exact quote, I'll end up putting it on the screen, but where she said that she talked to Biden and said, whatever you have to do to get her out, just get her out. Well, it's not that simple. And I think you're a great wife for saying that. But at the same time, your wife isn't necessarily worth that for the United States or for Germany or for the world for that matter. So it's unfortunate that she's been sentenced to 9.5 years in a Russian prison, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. So like I said, it's not that I'm happy about this, but when you think about it logically, Brittney Griner did a very dumb thing, whether it was on purpose or on accident. It was a very dumb thing to do, and you can't expect the entire world to shut down because an athlete went to go make extra money in a country that we don't have good relations with and took contraband into that country and is now unfortunately having to suffer the consequences of it. So anyway, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. I'm anxious to see what you guys have to say. I know I'm going to get cussed out. It is what it is. I get cussed out regularly on this channel, so let's not any of us pretend like this is something new. Anyway, this has been Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.